Since the nuclear holocaust, 20 years have passed. The leader of the Euraks monarchy, the powerful Euro-Afro-Asian unity who pressed the fatal button, claims to have won the conflict. But planet Earth has been reduced to a garbage-strewn radioactive desert, inhabited by humans devoid of all hope for a future.
That thing back there was a cyborg, half man, half robot.
I don't have time to jaw with anyone who won't identify himself.
Hello and hail Saturn.
Hail Saturn.
Welcome to episode 10 of the Snob and the Slobs. We've got, I'm distracted by that mask. I am unknown comics writer Chris Hirsch, joined as always by my fellow Slob, comic book artist and illustrator Max Hedgeshroom, and our snobby friend, director of stage and screen, Justin Driscoll.
Yo.
And tonight we are talking about 2019, After the Fall of New York, a dystopian Mad Max Escape from New York mashup that is actually
splash of Planet of the Apes.
A little bit of Planet of the Apes. Yeah, it's pretty much any dystopian movie that came out before 1983 is probably represented in this
one.
And
I'm convinced, despite people thinking it's Mad Max, I'm convinced that this is the main influence on the Fallout games because the aesthetic in it is exactly the same.
I don't know, because Fallout had a lot of, I think it pulled out from Mad Max movies like this, same kind of influences. I think you can definitely see very similar aesthetics.
Yeah, but look, there's a very specific one in this where it, when you go to like the high tech areas,
right?
Then, like there's the differentiation between like the radioactive desert and the high tech areas is like, and the weapons as well, the laser weapons. They're like exactly proper reminded me of it. Even some of the some of the acting.
Fair.
And the monkey men.
Oh yes, I can't disagree with that. That's fair.
The monkey men. I thought this was kind of cool. I think you mentioned the aesthetics being similar to Fallout. I thought the aesthetics were one of the highlights of this movie.
Oh,
God. And we're probably going to get into it a lot. But
oh, Jesus.
Excuse me. The aesthetic of this movie is so cool. The mixture of sort of the sci-fi and dystopian stuff with sort of the feudal, medieval, knights on horseback and crossbows, and sort of the mixture of high tech and low tech stuff is really cool.
Because there's a part in Fallout as well where there's this group called that's led by this guy called Caesar, and they're all on horseback and they've got the armor and stuff like that. So it crosses those three or four aesthetics. It's pretty good. Yeah,
it's really cool, and it's got kind of that early 2000 AD kind of aesthetic and feel to it as well. That is just everybody should know by now that Max and I both love 2000 AD. So
it's great.
Yeah. So anyway, we are going to get into this really fun movie that's a little bit batshit crazy, as most of our movies are, but it's a lot of fun. And for our plot breakdown, we're going to turn it over to Justin.
Oh, I mean, to be fair, with like a movie like this, I don't even think plot is really the thing we should be talking about. It's as Chris mentioned tonight, we were doing 1983's 2019 After the Fall of New York.
I love it when we get somebody, hey, Critical Blast, how you doing? I love it when somebody new comes in and hears mine and Justin's voices and doesn't realize that we're actually in the UK.
Yeah, they don't live in America. They live here. They live where I live here behind me.
To be fair, that was the A1 last night trying to get home.
Oh Jesus, I got caught in that too. Yeah,
so did I. 2019
It's so weird.
All New
listening
York.
to
It's as Chris mentioned,
Americans
it's a
talk
dystopian
about
sci-fi
the
novel.
different roads in England. Sorry, carry on.
So 2019, after Chris mentioned, after the fall of New York, is a 1983 sci-fi dystopian movie, very much influenced by both Mad Max and Escape to New York. Mad Max came out in 1979 in Australia, and Escape from New York was 1981 in the United States with John Carpenter.
Both great movies.
Both great
Yes.
movies. As you heard from the trailer, this takes place 20 years after the nuclear war that ended life on Earth as we know it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, big uh-oh.
That's getting clipped.
Oh, man. And it's just, like I said, the plot breakdown is good, but it's a boilerplate kind of sci-fi dystopian breakdown, but the aesthetics and just the choices that go into it are just absolutely fantastic. Directed by Sergio Martino. We're just going to get right into it. So we open up on a pan of a desolated, decimated skyline of New York, which are very clearly models and miniatures. Like, there's no bones about it. They're not shot in a way that can fool anybody.
Charming,
but
though. Very, very charming.
Yeah, but it does a great job of setting up the aesthetic of what to expect. Like, they take this seriously. They're taking it seriously. And they
Look at that. How cool is that?
That is, I mean, it is one of the coolest openings I've ever seen. It's definitely, when we do our season 1 recap, I think this is, if we were doing awards, this would probably be the best opening shot.
There's something about
for the whole season.
Yeah, but especially when they're done right. They just look. Yeah, there's something about it.
It looks amazing. I mean, you can obviously tell it's miniatures, but
yeah, for sure,
it's so cool.
Great looking miniatures. But I will say this: what really sets this off is the music. Like, the music. So you open up on this desolate city, and you just have this lone horn, just trumpet, just kind of come over, this very just depressed sound, just wailing as you're kind of crawling over all of this destruction, and you pan over to this lone, this lone deformed, mutated trumpeter, and it's just like it sets that tone so perfectly. The music was done by Guido De Angelis and Maurizio De Angelis brothers, both under the name of Oliver Onions. This was a Italian-French co-production, but
which you can tell.
Yes.
In watching the movie, you can tell that it's overdubbed, and
Oh yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
into it though.
It's got a very if spaghetti westerns were set in a dystopian future, this is pretty much what the movie would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. But it's fantastic. Like I said, it's so great on the opening, and it really sets the tone. And then we get the monologue that was from the trailer that we see kind of explains that this was 20 years after the nuclear apocalypse. Oh yeah, every day, Von Spoon, every day. This is it's just 20 years after the nuclear apocalypse. Life on Earth has ended. The Euraks, which is the remnants of Europe, Asia, and Africa, who formed a union, are the ostensible villains, and that they came over to.
They're the Empire.
They're the Empire for all intents and purposes. And so now there are no fertile women left. So the human race is destined to die out, which, if you've watched Children of Men, is the exact same setup.
Which I got to be honest, I said this Friday night when Justin and I watched this. It's actually kind of a cool plot device that especially for something dystopian and like that, like you've got all this mutation, you got cyborgs, you got all these different kind of
Aria.
Dystopian futuristic stuff. Hey, Aria, how you doing? And having that kind of central theme, that central kind of conflict and plot point be that there's only one. We found this one woman that can reproduce. It's actually kind of a cool.
Yeah, and then we'll get to that.
Cool story driver.
We'll actually get to the setup here in a second, because the other thing that this movie does really well is take its time, kind of A, setting up the world, and B, setting up the characters. So when we're going on this journey and we're following the main character of Parsifal, which is very clearly a reference to King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Parsifal is the one that found the Holy Grail. We actually understand the kind of world that this is happening in, which is very key to the climax and the final kind of conclusion of the movie, which we'll get to in a second. But But another great thing about this too is the opening does a great job of setting up, like I said, the tone, but also sets up the world. So we kind of get the backstory and the exposition that sets the world up, and then we cut to people that are very clearly trying to survive. They're hiding out. They're all burned by radiation and mutations, and this is where we really get to see the kind of sci-fi medieval aesthetic really come into play, which Chris had mentioned. So you see the Euraks coming on white horses. They're wearing, they're wearing armor, like that knight armor. They're carrying laser crossbows.
They look a little bit like Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Kind of look like the
none shall pass.
Like it's the right amount. It's the right amount of goofy, but like when you're watching this, and you, especially on your second or third time watching it, and you get over the kind of goofiness, and you're like kind of laugh at it and everything, then you cool. Really appreciate how brutal this is, because then they send in the hunters, which are people that are hunting mutants and stuff like that, pretty much just killing.
Everybody has to report to like some science experimentation thing, and they're trying to get these mutants and stuff in to conduct experiments on them. And that's why they're raiding this neighborhood or whatever.
And they just go through and they're just burning people, just killing people nonstop. Like it's just, like I said, it really sets up the kind of nihilistic hopelessness of this movie. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then we go through all this, and then we cut to the desert, and we get the introduction of Parsifal, where he's doing effectively a demolition derby disaster race, where he's competing as the champion, and he wins against the guy with this really wicked awesome freaking car fight race thing.
It is really cool. That and cool. Just that car on the left is Parsifal's car, and that is a rocket launcher on the top of that car.
It's so great. And
it's
one
so
thing
cool
too is the fighting in this movie is actually really good. They do a lot of hand-to-hand fighting, and while it's very clearly not like Shaw Brothers level, kung fu choreography, it doesn't have that like stop pose hit that you see in a lot of other kind of cheaper movies. It's actually really good. Kind of flows. It's dynamic. They're rolling all over the place and stuff.
You're
like
an idiot.
I just want to know. I'm a professional. Thank you. I'm a professional. I did not get distracted. Yes, it's fantastic. It really is. Like you can't argue with it.
That's going on a T-shirt.
That's going on a T-shirt.
Just sets up the nihilistic disaster. It's fantastic.
So after and once again, they do a good job of reinforcing the kind of key theme. So he wins, and the mayor, which is dressed up in this like sweet like black and white top hat, and he's all just like disheveled and stuff, and this fucking clown.
Oh, that clown pisses me right off.
Why?
It haunts my nightmares.
It's just the sound. It's just the sound of the clown, like the
voice. that fake robotic.
I am the clown robot guy. Yeah,
proper does my head in.
Winner.
That's very Fallout as well.
I can't take the fucking picture down now.
Well, we're going to be watching this for the rest of the episode.
There you go, sorted.
Oh, Greg. You lost my mom when she discovered Facebook
for those of you
on Messenger.
For those of you watching who've never used StreamYard before, when we have the pictures up, I can actually still see down in the bottom of my screen. I can see the other two guys. And so I saw him do that and was like, God.
This is going off the rails, guys. This is going off the rails.
It's entertainment. Come on. Just everyone keep it together.
We're professionals, damn it. We're professionals.
Just chill. Stop being so silly.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
So silly.
So after he wins the demolition derby in the race, he is awarded 3 gold tokens, which are licenses to kill, and he's given a sex slave, effectively. And so they drive off on a motor trike because all badass fighters of the wasteland.
Nice.
Have
tell me that shot is not an homage to Easy Rider.
I would even say Easy. Just absolutely.
Easy Rider, Full Throttle.
In fact, Easy Rider is what I called this file, the picture. Yeah, this still on the production.
Yeah,
it's cool.
No, definitely. I can't argue with that. But this is once again where we see character set up through action. He finds 3 people that are dying from drinking radiated water, and he kills all 3 of them. Just shoots them all. And then she asks him, "Hey, why did you shoot them?" It's like, well, because they were going to die anyways. He throws the 3 gold coins on these 3 people, effectively licenses to kill, and allows them to take their stuff, which I guess there's a really well thought out judicial system in the Wasteland. I don't know.
Yeah, they're clearly plastic giant.
Oh, yeah, very good. Yes, because I was surprised they didn't actually buy 24-karat discs, the size of.
Yeah.
And then he lets her go. Like, he's just like, she's calling him master and all that. He's like, "You're free. Just you brought it," and she just rides off. And then after that, he is captured by the Confederacy, which probably could have done without that in the modern age. But that's 1983 Italy. What are you going to do?
When they mention like the cyborgs, and she says it's the first sort of hint of the cyborg sort of being hidden.
It's actually a kind of a good introduction because it's very subtle.
Yep.
And then we'll get to where this pays off later, but
but the that whole thing of the cyborgs being there and then not being there, and some being left over and sort of being hidden, that's a massive thing in Fallout. Like, that's a huge
this is going to be the
storyline.
This is going to be the theme of the show.
Like, honestly, like at first I thought, oh, that looks a bit like Fallout. Oh, that's like Fallout. Oh, that's like Fallout. And then by the end of it, I was like, Christ, this is like the unsung.
But it's also just a good
Chris. This also has I also realized this too. This has a car race, which means this has to have inspired Ricky Bobby. Talladega Nights.
I get where Max is coming from. I'm looking at
the cyborg thing in the radioactive wasteland. I've never seen that before.
I'm looking at it more in the setup and introduction, and then payoff later in the movie. That this is the sort of subtle introduction that will pave the way for kind of the big twist in the end.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
but it's not something that they continually hammer home. They just
they
just very subtly introduce that cyborgs are a thing, and then they kind of roll on with it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. But it doesn't need to be, because that's not the point of the movie. It does set up a twist at the end, but it doesn't need to be hammered home. And they do a really good job.
Yeah.
So they get picked up by the guy. The fact I love the 2 soldiers that pick him up are actually airmen who are wearing United States Air Force rank. Hey, what's up, Matt?
Matt, we are talking about 2019 after the fall of New York.
And they take him to the Confederacy base in Alaska, where the president effectively gives him the mission that they know that there is the last fertile woman is in New York, and that he needs to go get her, because they're going to go to Athos Centauri, but the trip would be pointless if they don't have a way of perpetuating the human race. So he needs to go find the last fertile woman before the Euraks do. And I have to say, this is actually a way better setup than Escape from New York. Because, like, Escape from New York, all Snake Plissken has to do is go find the MacGuffin that's attached to the president. That's it. Like, that's all there is. There's absolutely nothing else there. He's sent in to go find something that's actually worth finding and that's actually important. And then the other thing too is, like, they talk about how they're going to find the last fertile woman, and she gets to spend the rest of her life having her eggs extracted to help perpetuate the human race. And it's like, how freaking dark is that? Like, even the better solution where the ostensible heroes, if they achieve their objective, a person is subjected to a life of torture and horror for the, like,
that's, I mean, it is fantastic nihilism.
I wouldn't mind giving my eggs up consistently.
Well, that's because you're just a selfish bastard, Matt.
I'd do it.
He's also, as I pointed out on Twitter earlier in the week, Max is a whore.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Massive whore. Do you know? Do you get this? The little trivia about eggs. Girls are born with all the eggs that they're ever going to have in their lifetime. From
do you know?
How fucking mad is that?
Do you know this little bit of trivia? I live on an estrogen farm. And have a wife and 3 daughters. And so, yes, I already knew that.
Yeah, I did not know that. So Katie told me, and it blew me away.
Yeah.
It blew me into Fallout land.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy to think about, especially when I look at my little daughter that's 4 months old, and I'm, she's like that big,
Shit,
and
man.
all the eggs ever.
All of your grandchildren are all
my grandchildren are already crammed in there.
Emma, I do egg extraction once an afternoon, and I don't find it painful at all.
I don't think that's egg extraction. I think that's called wanking.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Emma.
Yeah, to be fair, if you're the last furrow man, if you get told you get to, freaking beat off into a cup for the rest of your life.
Yeah, see, I was going to say that when Max started saying about extracting his eggs, that can you imagine how flipped and how completely different this movie would be if it was the last surviving fertile man?
I'll do it.
Right, exactly.
Hey, I'm here to help. I'm here to help.
It'd be like a 30-second movie of yeah, shit, yeah, hell yeah, I'm down.
That would be interesting, though, wouldn't it? That would be interesting
to flip this movie.
Yeah, but in a serious way.
Yeah,
I wonder how it would play out.
It would be a very short movie.
Very short movie. So they're told that he is introduced to his 2 companions, Bronx, who has intimate knowledge of the city of New York, and his wife and child were killed by the Euraks, and Ratchet, who is the strongest man in the Confederacy, and he's there. Both of them are being sent in to back up Parsifal as he goes on his mission. So they're told, all right, cool. You're going to get a helicopter ride to just outside Euraks headquarters, or the security wall of Manhattan, and you're going to go in and you're going to do the thing.
Which is, I think, the Holland Tunnel.
Yeah, the Holland Tunnel.
Yeah.
Where they go in. Yeah, because
for anybody who's never been to Manhattan, that doesn't mean anything.
It's because the guys, the Holland Hunters is what the gang is called there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The Holland Hunters. So, so they don't show the helicopter ride because I think, I don't think they realize how far that actually is. So a helicopter ride is this.
And Max, the Holland Tunnel connects New York to New Jersey.
Yes.
It goes under the Hudson River.
Doesn't connect it to Holland.
No. I would assume it's called the Holland Tunnel because the original name of New York was New Amsterdam, but I can't. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
Long tunnel.
It goes from Jersey. It goes from Jersey City. It goes from Jersey City to Lower Manhattan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Everyone in the chat, look it up. Why is the Holland Tunnel called the Holland Tunnel?
I'll look it up.
Yeah, there we go. So we cut to
Death by Snoo.
So we cut to them driving up on their motorcycles up to New York.
I think I'm right.
Yeah, I think Chris is right.
The Holland Tunnel was originally called the Hudson River Vernacular Tunnel, and it was renamed the Holland Tunnel in memory of Clifford Milbourne Holland, the chief engineer, following his sudden death in 1924.
Well, there you go.
The tunnel could open.
There you go. I was not right. What New York was still called New Amsterdam originally.
Yeah. So
it was just coincidences.
Suck it.
Yeah. That is a cool coincidence, though.
Yeah.
So they pull up.
The show is educational too.
Yeah,
that's what we do. So they pull up outside the ruins of New York, and they meet the lone trumpeter who tells them how to get into New York City, and thus begins our adventure. Just that shot right there.
That shot is amazing.
So cool. Just so cool.
It is cool.
And the sets throughout this movie, whether they're miniatures or full-on sets, are just fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
I'm sure they used miniatures in Fallout.
I'm sure they did. So what's really interesting too, they hit all the right beats to keep everybody emotionally engaged. So
this whole movie looks like a 40K table.
So they're talking about how they baked the Big Apple, and they cut to Bronx, who obviously lost his family there. And, he's actually like having like a reaction to this. He's like actually crying and stuff. It actually touches you when you're watching this. It's like that really hits you where you live and everything. So they go through the tunnel and they fight through a bunch of rats and dirty sewage water and everything.
Yeah, the guy falls over and gets totally fucking mauled by James Herbert rats, doesn't he? And just
yeah, that's coming up, but yeah, he does.
Is it? Have I jumped the gun there? I like that bit.
They get to the bus graveyard, and that's where they fight the Holland Hunters.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and they're fighting the Holland Hunters, which is a great fight scene too. Like, it's brutal, it's dirty, it's great. And I want to know where they filmed this, because I love the fact that they're going in and out of the buses and all that.
The sound effects for punching in this as well is like Rocky punch sound effects, where it doesn't actually sound like that. It's like a it sounds like a mini explosion. Like I love that. Like, where it sounds nothing like really hitting someone. It sounds like way hyperbolic. Proper gets me going.
So they defeat the Holland Hunters, and they make it into the ruins of New York. And this is where they meet the first group of people. And just like every part of this movie just drips with desperation. Like, I love how like every part. Oh, I'm sorry. Have I ignored you all night?
You have. You Justin. Yeah, you have.
Yeah, you're ignoring his Fallout comments.
Yeah.
I know, right?
As if they don't matter.
Oh, squish. Yes. So we
what's happening?
My dog. So we had friends of ours over tonight, and they brought their little kids over, and we were playing with the kids, and one of them was like our godson and everything. And Scout was getting a little jealous. She wants attention.
Oh, let's take my dog to the vets today because he's got a bad ear hole.
Oh no!
It's all right.
Yeah, we gotta take ours to the vet too. She doesn't know it yet, but
shush, Chris. Unless you've got a dog, just shush.
So, welcome to the first episode of what happened with these two motherfuckers' dogs today.
Yeah.
Hey. Everyone cares about a dog. They made 3 fucking John Wick movies, and they're making a 4th based on the dog. So,
yeah, but none of them were made in 1983, and none of them were called 2019.
I think they should flip that and do how the dog would react if John Wick dies.
Just sit there and lick it. He'd probably just sit there and lick his balls,
lick his ass.
So this is interesting too. So there's a little person that is sneaking through, and they find him, and they all think it's a child. They all think it's a kid, and they find it's a little person. And they say it's bad luck. Snake, and they try to kill him, which is interesting because there's actually like a diegetic reason. If you think about like the kind of logic of this movie, is that if there are no kids and you have little people, that they are bad luck because they're not kids, but they're little people. Like, it's interesting. There's a diegetic reason for them.
They've become like a bad omen or something.
Yeah, it's like a bad omen.
Yeah.
So they try to kill him. Parsifal jumps in, saves them. They all fight, and they eventually get captured by the gang. They get taken back and tied up at their camp. And this is where we meet the female love interest, or what will be the love interest, the blonde one there. And so what's interesting too is like they're brutal, and they very clearly treat women like property in this type of world. They're not. It doesn't seem like they're evil. Does that make sense? Like the Euraks are very clearly evil.
They've reverted back to a sort of a much more
primitive,
primitive time.
Yeah.
Matt, go and watch it. Watch the film, man. It's pretty good, and it's quite short as well. So it's like
and it moves quick.
Yeah, it's very the pacing of it is amazing because it's about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah,
it's kind of a standard length movie, but it feels like about an hour-long episode of a TV show because it's paced so well and it keeps going.
Honestly, I was surprised.
I'm looking at my notes.
This one passed me by.
Yeah, it's like I'm looking at my notes and I'm just like, holy shit, we're already at this part now. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a quick watch,
but it's smart too. It doesn't feel cheap. Like it does that really great thing. Like so, last week when we talked about No Holds Barred, like it was one thing I found I didn't like about it was there was no escalation. The action in the first part of the movie is the same action you're going to get at the end of the movie, which makes sense. But with this, there's like that kind of constantly rising tension and constantly rising action throughout the movie. And it's like I said, it just keeps you engaged the whole time.
I have this thing, right, and I can't explain it. I don't know if it's a mixture of aesthetics and the dubbing and the time that it was made, but sort of, but these sorts of Italian-made B movies really remind me of like early manga, like especially stuff like. Did you ever watch The Fist of the North Star?
I'm just gonna go no. I never.
Oh, you should, mate. If you like this, you'll probably love it.
To be fair, and Chris and I were talking about this. I think there could be truth to it because you think about both Japan and Europe. You know, you think about World War II and the utter just destruction, and not just like the physical, but like social, emotional, philosophical destruction that these two world wars wrought on Europe. And definitely World War II on Japan for very clear reasons. Like I could imagine there being this similar like nihilistic aesthetic that can really that starts to perkle up. You know, once people start grappling with the
especially in these sort of early 80s and 90s, there like a lot of the sort of early manga stuff was all about dystopian futures, and that they drew from that sort of Mad Max palette as well and put that into their animation. So you end up with two sort of genres that are oddly similar, even though one's live action and one isn't, and they're from completely different ends of the aisle. Every time even when I watch spaghetti westerns, I get that feeling. I'll have to give you some of the ones that I'm on about, and I reckon you'll appreciate them.
I'll check it out. Yeah. And the other interesting thing too, as well, is that Europe is really the first area to really start playing with the form of cinema as an art form. You know, the U.S. definitely commercialized it. But when you talk about like even all the way back to German expressionism, like you're looking at the early Swedish films like The Phantom Carriage, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Nosferatu, like all these German and Swedish films were really playing with the medium of film as an art form, as something that's more malleable, that doesn't restricted by like theater. And then you look at, the real first aesthetic movements in film come from Europe, like French New Wave, Italian neorealism, especially in the post-World War II period. And, that's where you start kind of seeing this confluence of those influences with new Hollywood that started to deconstruct the studio system and the aesthetic choices of the, golden age of Hollywood and the deterioration of the kind of social aesthetics there. All those kind of come together in this one area here. And it's really interesting how that all plays out.
Yeah.
And that's where you start seeing these choices every day. Spaghetti westerns are definitely like that, where you start seeing that grittier take on the American mythos. And then on top of that, you start seeing stuff like, kind of importing, from Australia and Oceania, that kind of aesthetic start to bleed in, and how these all play together is really fascinating.
Yeah, I love that idea. I love watching the progression of all that sort of stuff. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah. And like I said, how this movie is actually really smart and how it tells its story. It's really interesting if you're watching the background of the rat people, because they're eating rats and stuff like that. All their beds that they sleep on are all raised off the ground, which makes complete sense. If you think about, these are rat infested areas, you don't want rats crawling all over while you're sleeping. But they don't talk about it. They don't call attention to it.
And they're like piranha rats as well. If you're on the floor, they like.
Yeah.
There's actually one of the the fuck ups in the movie is actually in this scene where one of the rats is like clearly a guinea pig.
Yeah, very.
Oh, really? I didn't spot
that. There's one that gets stabbed that is very clearly a fake rubber rat too.
It's
like
very clearly.
Yeah. And so then the Euraks break in, and they're captured by the Euraks, and the rest are carted off to to their science experiments. So they're told, the Euraks know that these guys aren't, because Ratchet actually breaks off from the group at this point. So you have just Bronx and Parsifal who are captured by the Euraks. Ratchet escapes away. And then we get a little bit of the exposition dialogue scene between Bronx and the leader of the Euraks, whose name is really never even mentioned, pulling very much channeling very much Yul Brynner.
I was gonna say his name is not Yul Brynner.
No, it's not Yul Brynner. That is definitely
no. His name is not Yul Brynner.
Exactly, not Yul Brynner. I think it's Swedish. And
I recognize him.
It's because he looks like you.
Yeah.
If you shaved your beard and took your glasses off, that's exactly what you would look like.
No, I've got a much stronger jawline than him.
Do you?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you think so.
See? Don't you reckon?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's an actor named Sergei Filiorad. Looks like he was a French actor.
Huh.
Yeah.
What's he been
in?
Just
still active in 2019. So.
Wow.
But yeah, this is where you get a little bit of the exposition dialogue between him and Bronx. Bronx is much more of, let the whole human race die out. We killed each other. We should just end it. He thinks there's the glorious Euraks are gonna rise up and secure the rest of the world. It's very on the nose, but does a really good job of kind of underlining the main theme of the choices that we're going to make to help that are going to decide humanity's future, whether we just give up on everything or if we try to do something more. And then he gets the chance to stab him in the eyeball, which that eyeball effect is just
pretty. It comes out of nowhere too.
Yeah.
Just like, oh wow, he just stabbed that dude in the eyes.
Yeah, they're being completely cordial. And then he asks why he came here, and he just
like, holy shit,
stab you in the eyes.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah, massively. Got after it.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Parsifal, who's tied down on a torture table, which we'll find out later why it's a torture table. And then Commander Anya, lets him go. And asks him what his mission is. He says he's part of the Confederacy, which so just trolling drops that dime. It tells
without even being tortured, he just gives them up.
Just gives it up. But he uses this as a way to rescue Giara, the blonde woman from earlier, and says that that's the last fertile woman. And so that's the whole thing.
Comparable to Veronica in what way, Von Smoot? I don't think this movie is comparable to Veronica in any way, but
it's the.
What are you asking?
Yeah,
it's comparable to Veronica as in the complete inverse. As boring and shit as Veronica was, is how engaging and amazing 2019 After the Fall of New York
comparable in the way that if you get enough radiation, you might get eyes on your tits.
Yeah,
they could have had tit eyes in this movie.
Tit eyes.
Oh, the eyeball
stab there.
I thought this one was better, but
it's great.
Yeah,
it
was better in terms of the story, at least that it actually served a story.
Yeah. I will say, I think there's something to be said for practical effects from this era being much more effective than when people go back to practical effects now, because it was so refined as a form of telling stories at that time. It really looks good, especially when you get to the eyeball surgery scene later where they're replacing his eyeballs. It just looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good.
So he tells him that Giara is the last fertile woman, and they go pick her out of the group, and they run tests on her to say whether or not they are, or whether or not she is. And then we cut back to Bronx, now on the torture table himself, getting tortured with a computer torture, which I gotta say is kind of terrifying when you think about it. It's just like this emotionalist robotic voice telling you will tell me. We're coming up to that, which is just, I love that aesthetic choice.
Did I go too early?
Yeah, that's all good. But he saves the Bronx, escapes, saves Jar, escapes, and then Ratchet comes in and saves them as they're escaping the Eurak headquarters. And Bronx is,
remind me, I don't want to give away too much, but when we get to the end bit, we need to remember this spot when they're escaping from the Euraks and Bronx joins back with them. We need to remember this spot when we get to the end.
No, there's another one that we gotta.
But well, no, this one's this. I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't want to spoil the ending because I don't think most people in the chat tonight have actually seen this movie because it's a very difficult one to find. So I don't want to spoil the ending, but just remind me when we get that we need to get back to this spot.
There's I think I know what you're talking about. So they escape, but Bronx decides to sacrifice himself so everybody else can get away, which is great. Like how quickly Parsifal is just like, all right, bye Felicia, and just freaking leaves the dude. So
he's very focused on his mission this whole time. Well, he has no problem smoking people and just straight up like, oh, you're gonna stay here later, boom, and he's gone. And then later when people die, he's like, oh, that sucked, and then just moves on. Yeah. And he's very focused on what he's got to do.
Into the climax. Like all of this plays into the climax.
Yes.
And which is like we've been doing this show for 10 weeks now, and this is the first time that there's an actual payoff to the theme of the story. Like,
yes, I suppose there is.
Oh my god, I love it.
This movie, the story, the writing, and the storytelling aspects of this movie, it does lend itself to being one of the better ones we've covered in terms of its structure and how it tells its story. It's in Deathgasm kind of range in terms of how well it tells its story.
Definitely. As they're escaping, Ratchet gets back because the little person they saved earlier helped them figure out where they were at, and they get into it, and they save them. They escape. I really like how they use stun guns in this movie because usually when you see stun guns, especially sci-fi stun guns, they're usually like you just shoot and you just get knocked out, but it's actually a localized effect. So he gets shot in the legs, so his legs don't work.
Yeah, it surprised me the amount of laser guns in this. Actually,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
you don't usually get a lot of laser guns in sort of radioactive wasteland.
My dog's losing her goddamn mind right now.
Stories. You do in Fallout.
I think someone's gonna go for a WALK later. Yes.
This is great programming, guys.
This is great. I love it. So they get away and he takes.
You missed another Fallout comment, Justin.
Jesus. Don't worry. I'm pretty sure it's a thing. Who's literally just named Shorty. The little person's name is just Shorty. He takes him to his group, which is
it's also his name on my stills.
He takes them to his group of little people that have all been kind of unfortunately kind of shunned from society after the apocalypse and everything. And this is where we get another kind of big bomb that he knows where this last fertile woman is at. He can take him right there. And as
you don't believe him.
No, you don't at all.
When he first tells them that, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know." The way they set it up, you don't believe him. He comes across as a schemer, and like the way they set it up, you just don't believe the guy. You think he's full of shit, and you think he's going to betray them, and it all sets up wonderfully.
Yeah. Now I will say the Euraks get back with the sonic device, and they all react. And Parsifal figures out that there's wax. If he puts wax in his ears, he can block the sound. So he puts wax in the ears of him, Giara. Ratchet puts wax in his ears, and then they put wax in Shorty's ears, and they get the hell out of Dodge. When we get to the end, remind me of this.
Yeah, this is another tell. Yeah,
so fucking perfect. I love it.
Yeah,
can't deny that.
Are you lost, Max?
No.
Okay.
What, like in the wasteland?
It's so realistic that green screen effect. It's like Fallout.
It looks a lot like Fallout.
I think it is from Fallout.
Is that Seattle or Toronto?
I don't know. Every Fallout game is usually set in a different city.
Yeah.
So which you have to be more specific about the Fallout that
Spoiler,
you mean.
Spoiler.
Well, that's either Seattle or Toronto.
Seattle.
What's that?
None of the Fallout's been set in Seattle or Toronto.
I've never played Fallout, so I don't know.
Well, you're missing out.
Yeah, I'm playing Fallout 4 right now. I mean, Chris, you have all that free time just to think about on video games.
Fallout 4 is a good one. Got slated, but I liked it.
Yeah, it was all right. So they get away, and then they find this woman rocking a baby randomly, and they all kind of go up and inspect it. And then a giant net drops down on them, and a guy literally zooms in like an acrobat to fly in and fight them. And then they fight off. They get through the net because the Euraks come and cut them out of the net, and then Big Ape comes in and fights them all to the death.
Big Ape is my favorite.
Played by George Eastman. Holy shit, this dude. Like, when you talk about, once again, you talk about the aesthetic decisions made in this movie. Like, it's so fucking cool.
Look at his face.
He's so awesome.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like a hairy beetle.
He is so awesome. Which one, George or Ringo?
Ringo.
He does look a bit like a hairy George, I think.
Yeah, I can see that.
Why did you ask me and then wait for my answer and immediately disagree?
Because I'm a dick.
Oh, yeah.
I
forgot.
But
yeah, he's great. I think he's probably my favorite character.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, he's awesome. I like Big Ape.
So so they get there, and then one of the apes try to take GR up, and then Parsifal's like, nah, fam, we ain't doing this. So they fight to the death, and he gets oh Jesus, and then he beats and wins. He wins.
That looks creepy as hell.
Right. Well, let's kill it with fire. Let's kill it with fire.
Well, this is what it's going to look like in the future, lads. So you might as well get used to it.
Wow, that effect's actually pretty
That
good.
is actually really, really good. Holy hell.
Wow.
I must live on through my children.
That's actually wigging me out a bit.
Dude, let's not. That's called the Uncanny Valley, bro. Let's not do that.
Wow.
So he scampers off, very likely is the one that tells the Euraks where they're all at. And the Euraks come to...
Looks like Joe Rogan.
Wow, that seriously is fucking creepy. Jesus.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, sorry, I'll change it.
So, he before he goes away, he sleeps with, or before they get captured again, Giara starts convincing him that
we're definitely getting towards the end of the season.
Yeah, you can definitely tell.
I'll stop there. Back to Old Faithful. Carry on.
Jesus Christ. And this is where he admits that he loves Giara, that if he loved anybody, he would love her, which once again starts playing into the ultimate climax of the movie. Euraks come to take him away. They get away. Shorty takes Parsifal, Big Ape, and Giara to where the last fertile woman is kept at, which is a professor and his daughter. And this is where we find out that the professor realized that what was going to happen to women that were exposed to radiation. So he put his daughter into hibernation so that she could survive it. She's been there effectively the whole 20 years. So she has no idea what's happened.
Yeah, and then she would be terrified if she was, say, woken up by a giant naked ape man.
Let's just hope that she was. I don't think she was, but let's just hope she wasn't. So they figure out, okay, how the hell are we gonna get out of here? Evidently, the professor kept a station wagon or the Griswold family vacation wagon on hand.
This is if Clark Griswold did a remake of Mad Max.
Yes, absolutely. So, but Shorty and Big Ape both tell him that, or Shorty tells him that, look, there is a tunnel. The Lincoln Tunnel is the only way that's out now, but it's heavily mined and there's a massive cannon. So
should we get Max? Should we get Max to Google why the Lincoln Tunnel is called the Lincoln Tunnel?
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the part of the show where the Americans fuck with the British guy.
Oh.
So,
am I supposed to know that?
Have you ever heard of Abraham Lincoln?
Oh yeah, of course. Of course I have.
Which is funny. It's probably
I am
not
a monkey, and if you remember
probably,
the last,
it's funny enough. It's probably not. It might not be named for Abraham Lincoln. It may be another Lincoln.
Oh no, it's probably Lincoln. Let's be honest.
I would. I'm 99% sure it would be Abraham Lincoln, but it just.
So so they go to a junkyard where they have steel and lead and metal that they could use to up armor the station wagon, but the Euraks come and Shorty sacrifices himself to distract the Euraks so that they can get away, and he kills himself.
It's named after Abraham Lincoln. I just checked.
Oh God!
So it's named after Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Okay. I figured it was.
And then what's great about it too is like here Parsifal actually has more of a reaction. So when Bronx sacrifices himself, he's just like, whatever, dude, peace. When Shorty sacrifices himself, he's like, I want to go help him. I want to save him. And he can't because that's not what the mission needs. And that's not what the mission demands because Shorty sacrificed himself to get away. And then, so what happens at that point is they get away. Shorty kills himself. They make it back. So Big Ape was left behind. Big Ape was left behind with Giara, and it's very much implied, like in the text, that Big Ape raped Melissa, who's the unconscious woman. Which, thank God, it's not shown.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's pretty well, like, sort of implied. Right?
It's not even implied. I mean, it's basically stated. It's all but stated. But they again, unlike most or a lot of Italian movies from this era, it doesn't show it, and it doesn't get. It's kind of. This is. It makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not condoning Big Ape's actions.
No.
But
Big Ape's
within the context of, if you think
it's supposed to be horrible.
Well, not just that, but if you think in terms of humans are just animals, and in a situation like this, where what's the number one prime directive of all animal species? Propagate the species, survive the species, continue on. And so in an animalistic nature kind of sense, what Big Ape does makes sense. It makes perfect sense that he considers himself to be the alpha, so it's him that should be able to carry on
absolutely. And he even says it, like, that's his motivation for going with them.
Yes,
is that this is something to carry on his show. He wants to live on through his bloodline.
Yeah, and he is clearly not a good person in the movie. So I don't like. It's not like they're glorifying or they're giving him a free pass, or that we're giving him a pass.
No.
But I think it's handled decently in the movie, and Big Ape's actions fit the character and they fit the story.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
So they go to break through the wall, and then they almost leave Big Ape behind, but Parsifal brings him in and lets him jump in. And this is where we get the fantastic escape scene through the tunnel, which is just a great practical effects, kind of just, running through barriers, running over mines, running through traps and all this stuff, which is just so well handled.
It's a lot like the end scene from Escape from New York, where they're driving across the bridge.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. But there's actually a good motivation for it. Like, this is the great thing about it. Like, John Carpenter, who I love as a director, don't get me wrong, I love him as a storyteller.
Yeah.
Like, the motivation in Escape from New York is about as thin as you can get.
Yeah. Escape from New York is a weird one for me because it never quite lives up to my memories of what Escape from New York is.
It's a sci-fi action movie where the action's not that great.
Yeah.
But it's carried by Kurt Russell and Lee Von Cleef.
Yeah. Like, the action in this film is a lot
great.
better.
Like I love the fact, like Big Ape leans out, throws his scimitar, and chops off 8 heads at once. Like,
yeah,
it's just got those little touches all the way through. Which is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So they make it out, but the last trap is a laser net that kills Big Ape. Yeah. And JR turns to him. JR turns to him. It's like, that's why you wanted him on here, because you knew what he did and you knew that he would protect her. He's like, yeah.
No, you said you knew he would protect her, and then Parsifal says, hopefully his seed is as strong as he said it was, and she goes, oh, you figured that out too.
Yeah.
So they all sort of knew, and no one really wanted to say that.
I don't think Parsifal cared. And there's actually, in the end, you find that there's almost like a smug satisfaction that he was able to let Big Ape get one over on the Confederacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so this is where we get to the actual climax of the movie, which what I will say is, as much as I love this movie, it kind of falls apart in the third act a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like, so they stop on the way to the rendezvous with the helicopter, and then Parsifal and Ratchet fight, because Parsifal has figured out that Ratchet's a cyborg, which is so well set up.
It is amazing. It's probably the best. It's probably the best and most consistent plot line in the entire movie.
Yes, absolutely. And all the plot lines are pretty consistent. Do not get me wrong. Like, most of them are pretty consistent.
Oh yeah. That's not a knock on the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
It's just how well done this twist was.
Yeah.
And it's one of those that, like, when it happens, you're like, oh shit, how did I not see this coming? Yeah. And this is where we get back to the scenes that Justin and I were talking about before.
So
where,
go ahead.
Well, first of all, there's the setup where the slave girl in the beginning tells Parsifal and drops the hints about cyborgs and establishes that cyborgs are a thing. And then I think the Confederacy talks about getting rid of cyborgs when they're talking to him, or the Not Yul Brynner does. One of them talks about killing off all the cyborgs.
Yeah,
and then when they all escape from Not Yul Brynner and the torture rack, and they get back up, they link back up with Bronx. That is a classic trope of don't trust the guy who wasn't in jail with you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, the guy who wasn't captured with you and who meets back up with you conveniently after you escape. Never trust that guy. Normally, though, that's the guy who's working. Like, if they had played that trope the normal way, Bronx would have been working for the Euraks.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was with the Confederacy was kind of the twist within the twist a little bit.
Yeah, and this is where it kind of gets to the part where the third act falls apart a bit, because I'll get there once again. The other scene that I was mentioning, which I thought was so great when you set it up, because the one thing that he talks about is when the sonic weapon was used, it didn't affect you. So
he didn't put in the earplugs.
Even better. When I rewatched it, because I thought, oh, are they going to do something that shows it? And they do. So they are riding on the ground, like clearly being impacted by this sonic weapon. He looks over. Ratchet's not reacting at all. Ratchet looks over to him, sees him noticing him, and then starts to react to the loud noise, or to the sonic weapon, and then puts the wax in his ears.
Wow!
Like, it's just so well set up.
Yeah.
So, but what I mean by that, this movie kind of falls apart in the third act, is that there's never an established reason why these two have to fight. Like, I get it.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
I think it's I got it purely as Parsifal doesn't like cyborgs, and he doesn't like the fact that the Confederacy sent a watchdog with him.
True, I get that, but on the other hand, it's like they don't do anything to set that up. It's not really set up. I mean, I guess it doesn't ruin the movie for me. It's fine. There's also a really weird Confederacy airstrike on the Euraks headquarters. So there's a really perfunctory wrap up for the main villain.
Yeah, and there's also this scene that kind of goes
nowhere. Yeah.
This just kind of goes nowhere.
Yeah. So when she says, so he's getting his eye surgery done, he's blind. Anya, who's on the left there, promises that she'll bring the three of them back before he can see again. And then he sits up. He's like, "You said you would be able to, you'd have them back before I could see again." And then she just shoots him. And I guess that's
And that's basically the end of both of those characters. They are no longer in this movie.
No longer in this movie.
There was no reason for her to shoot him.
Well, it turns out there's no reason for him to be in the movie, and there's no reason for him to lose his eyes. And there's like that whole kind of kind of story arc ended up going nowhere.
But the thing was like they didn't need that story arc. That's the thing. Like the whole point of that scene of between Bronx and Not Yul Brynner was to kind of establish the moral framework of the movie, like the question that it was asking. Very clearly saying, okay, do you believe in hope or whatever? And him stabbing Not Yul Brynner in the eye, like that's just satisfying because he's a dick and he's the villain and you want him to get stabbed in the face. But that's all you needed. You didn't need anything else. You didn't need anything to wrap that up. Like you could have gone without it. It would have been fine. Like that's not like a plot thread that is left hanging. I'm like, oh my God, what? And like I said, like the Ratchet's portrayal doesn't really lead to anything. Like it's just wait, why are they fighting? Okay, they fight, but Giara gets stabbed, and this is where I'm talking about how this totally plays into the climax of the movie as just perfect. Is that she's lying there, and she's saying effectively that, hey, look, humanity has to go on because to live is to love, and that throughout this movie, Parsifal goes from a nihilist, selfish, self-centered, not caring about anybody to someone who cares for other people because he sees the sacrifices other people are willing to make for the human race. He's able to see this love that he felt for Giara. Like all these things.
He does, but he simultaneously acts like he doesn't give a shit.
Well, yeah, he's not going to change his entire personality. But
as she's dying, she sort of says, care about humans, and then he just goes, yeah, all right, and then walks off.
Like, it's all a completely like rhetorical change. Like his outward like character and nothing else changes. He's still the same kind of straight, flat dude.
Here's the thing: the first time I watched this movie, and this is how well they play it, it was that I totally expected him to sabotage the spaceship, to blow everybody up, or whatever, like something like that. I thought was going to happen. But it doesn't, and it still makes sense with the rest of the movie. It doesn't feel like a cheap, happy ending. Like it was, he made that decision to succeed, let the mission succeed so that the human race can have a future. And then he flies back to the Confederacy. And this is the other thing I really find interesting too, is that the president character is very clearly a bastard. Like he's like, he set him up, he betrayed him, he set the cyber because he didn't trust him, the whole nine. Like they very clearly have some sort of history. But Parsifal never had a seat on that spaceship like he was promised in the beginning. But what was going to happen was that the president was sick, and he was going to give Parsifal his seat, and he held true to that. Like a really great way to kind of add nuance to like your kind of evil bureaucratic characters. Not really the villain, but still,
it gives him a bit
sort of the asshole ally,
a bit more rounded.
Yeah. And then so they're getting ready to take off. One of the ship's crew come up to Parsifal and says, "Hey, she's waking up. She has no idea what's happened. You need to be the one to explain it to her." And they take off, and ship takes off for Alpha Centauri, and the movie ends. It's a bit of a sloppy conclusion. I feel like they were trying to wrap everything up in the last 5 minutes, but God damn if I don't love this movie.
It is a good one. It's funny. I tried to find images of the spaceship taking off in the end, and so I searched the movie's title and then spaceship, and all it showed me was Jeff Bezos' penis rocket. I can't explain it. I don't know why.
That's fair.
That was everything they showed me. So what this movie was missing, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. This movie was missing Carolyn Monroe.
Oh, Carolyn Monroe.
My life's missing her.
Yeah. So that is 2019 After the Fall of New York. Seriously, if you could find this one, it's absolutely worth the time.
It's a tough movie to find, impossible to find on streaming services. But you can find it on Amazon, both the UK and the US Amazon. You just have to wait for it.
88
it's on DVD anyway.
Yeah, 88 Films did a fantastic Blu-ray transfer, really good, clean Blu-ray transfer with some really good interviews with Sergio Martoni, who was the director.
He directed it under a false name though.
Yeah, it's like Martin Ganford or something
Martin
like that.
Donalds or something like that. It's really weird.
So yeah, highly recommend it. Like that was fantastic.
Yeah, it's a really good one. It's one of, I think, the better ones we've, like, structurally, like I've said already, it's one of the better ones we've done this series in the 10 weeks. So that was that. Just a reminder to everybody as we move forward before we do the promos, we have one more live show next week. We'll get to that one in a minute of what that episode's going to be. But after that, we're going to, the three of us need to talk about a schedule, but we're going to try to do sort of we talked about doing a season wrap up, a pre-recorded episode where we just talk about the 11 films from the series so far that we've done and kind of compare them and rank them or do something. We'll do something fun with it. And, you know, and maybe edit in some clips from the different shows and stuff. We'll do sort of a season 1 recap before we take a short break in December. And then after the holidays, we're going to return with pre-recorded videos and shows. We're going to kind of revamp the show completely. And we're going to do kind of a mixture of longer form episodes similar to what we do now and some shorter kind of quick hit videos. And then we're still going to do occasional live streams and probably some chill streams as well.
Yeah. I like how you say that. Like we're just going to slightly change the whole show. Like we're just going to
completely everything we've done up to this point. We're probably not going to do any of it except 11 next. This is the 10th episode, Von Smoot. Next week will be 11 episodes.
We're in the pupil stage of building something, aren't we? And
we're trying to build something really cool.
Everything is a transition period to the next, and we want to make the show as fun for the people watching as it is for us to make it. And we want to grow as well. So that usually requires change, right?
And to be honest, we want to make the show a little bit more fun to make, because as much fun as it is to do live streams, it's a lot more fun to be able to do some fun skits and tell stories within our videos and kind of show our love of films and bad films and things through making this show kind of an art form of its own.
Yeah, we're not going to abandon the live format completely. We're going to do the chill streams, and like Chris said, we're going to probably do smaller things. I had a couple of ideas while we're actually doing the show that I'll fill you in after, actually. But yeah, it's going to be good, man. I'm feeling positive about all of it.
I am too. I think where we're going with the show and the ideas we have and the things we want to do, it's going to be really good. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, moving on, what do we have for promos this week, Max?
For promos, as normal, my comic Rokan that I'm illustrating for the writer Ben Jackson, who is the co-host along with Aria Blackness with me on Saturday Morning Cartoons, which is on Saturday, but it's not on in the morning, and it is rarely about cartoons. Don't worry about any of that. Just come on and watch it. But the comic is on Indiegogo. I'm getting good at this now, aren't I? My comic Rokan is on he's on Indiegogo. It only took that long. It's on Indiegogo. If you like sword and sorcery and wizards and warriors and monsters and blood and guts and finely detailed painted pages made from acrylic paint and endless talent, then you're probably going to love it. If you don't like any of that, then it's probably not your cup of tea at all. But still, hop on to Indiegogo, look for Rokan, see if it's your cup of tea. If it is, maybe think about buying a copy. If it isn't, maybe thinking about sharing it. And if you don't want to do any of those, then that's okay. Normally, I'd say fuck off, but I feel like that's not good business. So
now is what we decided.
Now, I never said I was a fast learner.
Fucking with background.
All right, then if you don't like the comic, piss off. Is that what you want me to say?
Now we don't swear at the viewers.
Now we don't do it. Okay.
If you don't like it, that's perfectly okay, and you're entitled to your opinion, and it doesn't bother me one jot. I don't even care. That's me.
Clearly.
That's okay.
I mean, it's okay.
buddy.
I want you.
And I wish I still had. I'll have to load up some for next time. I'll have to load up some Rokon pictures again because we haven't shown them in a few weeks. But the artwork is incredible.
Even though I just said I was done, I'm not. We're actually going to do a second push on Rokon because when we hit the Indiegogo, we had absolutely no idea what we're doing, and very much like the channel. It's all experimenting until you get the hang of it. And we want the next push for the foreseeable projects coming up to get better and better and better. So while we're in that phase, and we are funded and we're still on demand, and we can still make money and we can still have people coming on board, we're going to do a whole separate brand new push with a new trailer, some new artwork, the lot. So hopefully that if you've been watching all this time and you don't give a shit, maybe that will make you give a shit. And even then, if you still don't care, I'll give you my newborn son. He's coming in a few months. Just buy a copy.
Did you just give away your son before he was even born?
Yeah. He's never going to watch this. Actually, he might. Little Max.
I would be more concerned with the fact that your wife is watching this.
Yeah, no kidding.
We'll see.
And I know she is because she's the last one that made a comment in the chat.
Well, she said sounds good, so it's all right.
That's not what she was talking about.
Oh, that was like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. Justin, what have you got this week?
I am hopefully coming in from the creative cold here in the next couple of weeks. I'll have some announcements coming up here on future live streams and future shows that we do. But for the moment, still, please look up Pocket Productions on Facebook. Give them a like. They just did Fossils a couple weeks ago, which was a fantastic show. Everything is written and directed in-house, so it's a really great group of people. And please look, like I said, Pocket Productions and St. Ian's, look them up on Facebook and give them a like. They would really appreciate it. Additionally, Molten Melodramatics is putting on their panto here the next couple of months. So once again, look them up on Facebook. They'll have links to purchase tickets. They're a great group of people. And they always put on really solid, really interesting pantos. I always enjoy it. It's a good night out. And then, as I always plug at the end of every show, please support independent and amateur artists. COVID's still a thing, and a lot of those traditional lifelines that independent or amateur artists have been taken away or have gone away because of COVID. So, Katie, I'm trying to be serious here. I'm trying to really reach out. I don't. Fuck it. Just do whatever you guys want. I don't know.
I don't think you realize how lucrative it is.
But please go support independent art. Go support your friends, if it's your friends, or local amateur theater groups, because they're starting to spin back up now. So, and they're going to need all the people that can help them out. So please do so. And that's it for me.
I think nothing encapsulates the theme of this show and the title of the show, the name of the show, The Snob and the Slobs, more than the fact that every week Max and I talk about comics and Justin talks about theater.
Yeah.
So
true to form.
True to form. We're not lying. This is not like we're not playing characters on this show. We're not like, we are staying true to who we are.
Exactly.
And speaking of which, I'm still writing a comic called Heavy Hitters. Yeah, we're making progress. We're doing things. We're getting places. It's a slow burn process. Also doing some editing for someone else, and just generally trying to do stuff, man. That's it. Just trying to be creative.
Stay creative.
Yeah, just trying to stay creative, and I'm reading a lot, and read some great comics. Soon. Yeah, just keep reading. If you're not creating, make sure you're consuming and reading.
Absolutely.
That's the secret for writers. If you're not writing, be reading. So next week is a very special occasion. Yes. One, it's our last live stream of the season, and it's our last kind of scheduled live stream before we reformat the show. It's also Thanksgiving. We're hoping we're kind of on the hook right now. I have a daughter who's ill, and if she gets better, then this Saturday I am hosting the Snob and the Slobs Thanksgiving extravaganza that none of you are invited to. And it's just Max, me, and Justin and our families all getting together celebrating Thanksgiving.
That'd be fantastic.
But next week on Wednesday, we are going to watch a Thanksgiving horror film.
Oh,
called Blood Rage.
Yeah.
This movie, I can't. There's three things I can't wait for. I can't wait for Friday night when I get to go to Justin's house and watch this thing again because it's so good. It's so good. Such a great movie. I can't wait for the Slobs Thanksgiving extravaganza on Saturday because I'm going to deep fry a turkey, and we're going to have pumpkin pie and all of the American Thanksgiving stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I've never experienced any of that. I truly hope it happens.
I'm about 80% sure it'll happen. I'm pretty sure my daughter will be better by then.
I hope your daughter gets better, not for her health, but for me.
Part of it really depends. Part of it really depends on if her COVID test comes back negative tomorrow morning, which I'm fairly certain it will. I'm fairly certain it'll come back negative. But anyway,
make sure that turkey's fully defrosted.
Yes, I know how to fry a turkey.
I
know how to fry a turkey. I need to double check that I have all the things to fry a turkey, or else I may need to borrow some stuff from you.
We don't have all the stuff to fry a turkey. We got.
Oh, I'm just going off of the past.
Did you use like a giant frying pan?
No. I've got it's a big frying pot. It's like, I mean, it's huge. You'll see it Saturday. It's
like 5
massive.
gallons.
Yeah, it's like a 5 or 6 gallon, and he set it on a propane burner, and it'll be outside, and you fry it out in the garden. My garden is all patio and fake grass, so we don't have to worry about it.
It's very dramatic because
it seems dramatic, but it's also very safe. People get freaked out about it, but it's very safe.
Oh, it's so easy as long as you're
white.
Like so.
I'm so excited.
This year and last year we weren't able to throw our big Thanksgiving party, but every year what I do, I usually deep fry a couple of turkeys. And it's like the thing about it is I have a rule is that I don't drink until that's done. But as long as you're paying attention to it and as long as you're treating it right, it's really easy to do.
It's very easy. It's quick. It takes about 3 minutes per pound.
That's about an hour and a half.
We have a 14-pound turkey, so it'll probably take about 45 minutes or an hour to do it.
Yeah,
it's so good. It's
stays so moist. So moist and
we have a pumpkin pie ready to go, and we're gonna do we'll probably throw in a few British-ish kind of things just because my entire house is British except for me.
Emma, I wasn't trying to flex on that, all right?
If we don't have like Yorkshire puddings and some roast potatoes, my wife and kids will probably leave.
Yeah, you gotta have a bit of Yorkie.
Oh, I love Yorkshire puddings.
But anyway, Blood Rage. And the third thing I'm looking forward to is next Wednesday when we get to talk about Blood Rage. Because it's so good. It's such a fun movie. Nobody expects a Thanksgiving slasher movie. This one I think is a bit easier for people to find, I hope.
I think so, possibly.
I hope more people can
check it out. Please do. It's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely watch it before next week. And it's going to be a good one. Mac and cheese. Emma, do you know how to make mac and cheese?
She has my family recipe to make mac and cheese.
Hey Emma, could you make mac and cheese for Saturday?
I don't think I've ever had.
We need mac and cheese. We need mac and cheese if Emma can make some for Saturday.
I'm not signing my wife up for that. That's all her. As we all wait with bated, this live stream's not going to finish until we get an answer.
It'll be good.
I'll talk to her about it.
If not, I'll go get some. You want greens too? I suppose we could do collard greens. Yeah, that'd be good.
She calls them collard greens, but it's effectively just like cheese, bacon, green beans, or cheese, bacon, and spinach and broccoli all kind of mixed into a big pot, melted together, stuff like that.
Sounds pretty good, actually. Sounds pretty good.
Sounds really good.
Yeah. So there we go. If we haven't made everybody hungry and jealous that they're not invited to my house on Saturday.
Hey, Chris, can you just give me your address real quick, man?
Yeah, I'll get right on that. Anyway, that's next week's show. Blood Rage. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then the other thing that we'd like is for some of you guys to start giving us some recommendations for movies that you would like us to talk about in season 2. We're looking at expanding our palette a little bit, and so if there's a movie, good, bad, or indifferent, that you like, that you think the three of us could have an interesting time and a fun time talking about, let us know on social media or direct messages or in person if you see us on the street. So we'd love to hear from you. With that, is anybody got anything else before we wrap up?
No,
I think so. I think that's it.
Okay. Then, as always, we end with the John Waters quote: "Get more out of life."
See you,
Fucked
Up
movie.
Night,
All
everybody.
right, evening, everybody.